The Khalistani organization Sikh for Justice has admitted that behind the farmers' protest in Punjab, it was Sikh for Justice. When the farmers were protesting in Delhi, then some people said that behind such protest there were Khalistanis. And that time the whole lobby and the farmers themselves vehemently protested as if some people were trying to tarnish the image of the Annadata. But however, now today it has been clear that yeah, truly the Khalistanis are behind farmers' protest. So we can understand that basically the outsiders are taking control of our country. The outsiders, the Khalistanis could spoil the Firozpur rally of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. They muscle flexed, they had shown what we can do, but what a shame. How could the outsiders take control of our system? What is the system loophole? Where is the system anomaly? I want to repeat this again and again that where is the anomaly? What is the main loophole of our system? How could the outsiders take control of our system so easily? Why in Bengal border as well as in Punjab border, the outsiders are entering and taking control of our bureaucracy? How is it being possible? Before addressing that main system anomaly again, why am I repeating this particular point again and again? Because I want that let this sink in. Let this sink in to us. What is the main system anomaly? But before coming to that, I want to read out the tweet of Odisha CM Naveen Patnaik ji. Odisha CM has tweeted, "The Prime Minister of India is an institution. It is the duty of every government to provide foolproof security and safeguard the dignity of this institution. Anything contrary should be unacceptable in our democracy. Anything contrary should be unacceptable in our democracy. Prime Minister is an institution." So this is how Naveen Patnaik could think. And this is how we are supposed to think. And this is how the ministers should think. When the constitution makers conceptualized the constitution makers thought like this, that the ministers, all the ministers of India should think the way Naveen Patnaik ji is thinking. But alas, the reality is different. What the constitution makers didn't address was this, that all the people are not good people. Even our own ministers could turn rogue. All ministers are not good. Some ministers act as vehicle to bring in the criminals from outside. Some ministers act as vehicles to bring in the criminals from outside. All ministers are not like Naveen Patnaik. There is a Mamta Banerjee, there is a Charanjit Singh Channi. And our constitution has given immense power to the ministers. Immense power. The ministers can recommend anything to the bureaucrat. Before recommending, the minister doesn't have to think whether his recommendation is going to be legally viable or not. The minister is not supposed to think whether his recommendation is going into direct conflict with something equally or more important schedule of the bureaucrat or not. The ministers are not supposed to think. The constitution has not kept them answerable, has not hold them responsible legally in front of the judiciary. That kind of power has been given, presented to the ministers, thinking that the ministers are the public representatives. They would always think absolute good of his or her own people. But alas, this is not reality. This is idealism. In reality, we have ministers like Mamta, we have ministers like Channi, who are misusing their immense power. What is happening in these cases? The outsiders, the criminals are entering our state and taking these ministers, the power center. Ministers are entity with immense power with no responsibility. I repeat, with immense power with no responsibility. No responsibility in the eye of law. Until and unless the minister turns a thief, as the Lalu Prasad Yadav turned a thief, and it was proven that he took money for himself. So that's a separate issue. Unless and until the minister turns a thief in a proven manner, the ministers are not answerable. And the outsiders, after entering, take the minister into their own fold. And after that, they get their work recommended by the minister to the bureaucrat. So after that, after the ministers are taken into their fold, then the minister starts recommending what the criminals want. And once the minister recommends something to the bureaucrat, it is binding on the bureaucrat. But when the ministers recommend something very fishy, then the minister also has to take the bureaucrat into his fold. And thus it is formed what Call for Justice said, politico-bureaucratic criminal nexus. Call for Justice, when they came to investigate Bengal violence on the ground of West Bengal, they formed this term about West Bengal, politico-bureaucratic criminal nexus. This is how it is created through the minister. In this case, the minister acts as the vehicle who brings in, makes an inroad for the criminals, and through the minister, the criminals meet the bureaucrats. And after that, the bureaucrats keep on doing the work of the criminals. So this is the criminalization of the bureaucrats and also the bureaucratization of the criminals. That's how I understood it. In every bureaucrat enters a criminal, and in every criminal enters our bureaucrat. So it is vice versa, criminalization of the bureaucrat and bureaucratization of the criminals, keeping a dishonest minister in between. All ministers are not Naveen Patnaik. All ministers are not Narendra Modi. All ministers are not as honest as our constitution makers thought ministers would be. So what to do? What can we do? What can we do to stop this nexus? What can we do to break this nexus? The only way is making the ministers also responsible, putting some responsibility on the ministers, making the ministers responsible for each of his or her own recommendation and implementation thereof. Any work that would be done by the minister under him or her, let the minister also be legally answerable along with the bureaucrat for that work. That is the only way we can make the ministers answerable, and that is the only way we can cut this nexus. Because if the